All right, so welcome to our PioSolver example, and now we're going to look at example 3. And I'm going to, just like I did for the GTO Plus examples, I'm going to pull up our study template to just walk through our example 3. And as we've mentioned in our example 3, we are looking at now a 3-bet pot scenario. So this is our, as you can see from the bottom of the screen, this is our out of position offense perspective example. And the board here now, instead of this 9-6-4 rainbow board, now we have a 10-5-4 two-tone board where the 10 and the 5 are spades and the 4 is a diamond. Our pot size is $225 here in this case. So this is a 5-10 game. I'm using this in terms of dollars here because in PioSolver, I can't actually use decimals in the inputs in the game details, and we'll go through that in a second here in this video. But it's $225. Effective stacks are $1,890, 5-10 blinds with an SPR of 8.4. This formation is the button opens, the big blind 3 bets, and then the button calls. And we're looking at this from the big blind perspective, so out of position offense. Just so for your reference, the button is opening to 3. The big blind is 3 betting to 11 in terms of blinds after the small blind folds, and then the button calls. So that's how the stack size, that's how this pot size of 225 is generated. And our primary question here is, how should we be building a continuation bet strategy out of position against a sticky opponent? As I mentioned here, it's a 5-10 cash game with timed rake, so we're not going to include rake in this. Our button is a professional player, and the button is a bit sticky and fights for pots, particularly when in position. So we're going to account for that in our node locking later on in module 5. And you can also see here the iterations that I've actually added in here too, and we'll cover those in a few videos as well. So let's get into entering the game details for this. So as I'm entering the board, I can enter the board like this. I can enter 10 of spades, 5 of spades, 4 of diamonds, or I can use this select button, and as I hit select, it already pre-populated what I had entered in, so I could enter it this way and click down, and I can click any one of these buttons and interact with it this way, but I can enter my board in like here. The suit isomorphism concept still exists here, but in this case here, because the 10 and the 5 are the same suits, no matter what, this 10 and the 5 have to share the same suit, and the 4 has to be a different suit. So it can't be something like 10 of spades, 5 of hearts, 4 of hearts, because even though that is a 10-5-4 two-tone board, the structure of the board has now changed. So it has to be the 10 and the 5 have the same suits, and the 4 has a different suit. And if that is the case, then all of the other boards would act similarly to this board. But we're going to basically use the example that we gave in the slides, which is 10-5-4, where the 10 and the 5 are spades and the 4 is a diamond. Now, entering starting pots, the starting pot here is $225, and the effective stacks are $1,890. If I try to make this a decimal, so if I try to do this in blinds and say 22.5, as soon as I put the point in there, this is going to turn red, and that's because PioSolver does not like decimals in the starting pots or effective stacks or things like that. So we're going to stick with dollars here in this case, and because it's a 5-10 game, it actually works out pretty easily here. And we don't have any rake or ICM to add in here, so I'm not going to include rake or ICM. So we've entered our game details, and now that we've finished up that, we're going to look at example 4, where we shift gears and look at it from the buttons perspective, also in PioSolver. So let's go shift over to example 4. So now we're going to look at example 4, and I'll pull back up my study template, and we can just go through this example a little bit quickly, and we can see that our board, our pot size, our effective stacks, our scenario is basically the same here. The difference is that now we are the button, and we're looking at this from the button's perspective. And our primary question that we have here is, how differently should we change our defense strategy against an opponent who only 3-bets top end value hands? So with that, we're going to have to take all of that into account as we're ranging our opponent, and potentially take that into account with some of the post-flop actions as well too. There's a 5-10 cash game again, so there's timed rake, so we're not going to include rake in this calculation. Our big blind is a recreational player who doesn't 3-bet widely enough, and he or she is going to be skewed to a top-end linear 3-bet range with very few bluff hands in range. So we'll account for that when we get into the ranges, but let's start with the game details. And the game details are going to be the same game details as they were in example 3. So we can move really quickly, and I'll use the selector this time. And note that it's a 10 of spades, 5 of spades, 4 of diamonds board. I will hit OK. Our starting pot here in this case is $225, and our effective stacks is $1,890. So now we've built out the game details, and we can wrap this video up and come back and look at ranges in the next set of videos.